everyone, this is Dart, and I'll be discussing the Warcraft movie. If you haven't seen it, I'm going to simply say that as a longtime Warcraft fan and 10-plus year World of Warcraft player, I found it both enjoyable and pretty close to the storyline canon. Good action, good special effects. The whole movie moves along at a good pace, and you will thoroughly enjoy the experience. So without giving anything away, if you want a recommendation, go see the movie. Now, if you're still with me, I assume you have seen the movie and you're okay with spoilers. If not, I'd browse away right about now. Alright, the opening scene. You have a fight between a human and an orc somewhere, it looks like in Kalimdor's Barrens. They talk about orcs and humans fighting for as long as anybody can remember. And I have to say, after 10 or more years of playing the game, this is so true. I mean, for as long as I can remember in World of Warcraft, you had fights between Alliance and Horde at Barrens. You'd have the same thing in Ashenvale, Goldshire, just everywhere. I mean, in these little places in the world. I mean, Barrens is just the typical human versus orc clash point. Okay. Moving on. The initial opening of the Dark Portal was an amazing effect, I thought. Just the sheer scale of the Dark Portal on Draenor, incredible. To see so many orcs rushing into it in live action, absolutely mind-blowing. Alright, moving forward a little bit, we've got Gul'dan holding a stillborn thrall, or Goel. And I guess he just wasn't strong enough to survive the portal travel from Draenor to Azeroth while Draka was in the middle of labor. So Gul'dan infused him with life ripped from a deer. And that's kind of odd. I've always kind of wondered, how does it an orc from Draenor would have such a strong connection with Azeroth that he would be kind of selected to become the Earth Warder in place of Neltharion? I guess if his life force is actually from Azeroth and infused into a stillborn child, that kind of partly explains it. Also, that kind of explains his green skin, since, you know, he's always shunned the Fel for like Warcraft 3 on, when we first find out about him. The shots of Stormwind, the size and the sheer detail are just incredible. All the little things, the little Murloc trill as they take the bridge across the river, the whole whatever that unpronounceable combination of M's, R, G's, and L's are, just incredible. You got CGI griffins, trademark laminated blue and white armor, and the depictions of Westfall and Karazhan, it's all just so good. You've got Medivh's characteristic arrogance, him just blithely tossing ATS to Khadgar, and it's just such great foreshadowing, because now in the story, Khadgar's the one who's wielding ATS, the Guardian Staff. And the explanation of Fel as evil made manifest, draining the life out of anything it comes into contact with to fuel its own power. It's a good explanation. It's short, it's succinct. It does leave out that it started off as the blood of Manoroth the Destructor, the pit lord that in the lore is responsible for not only degenerating the orcs into savages, but also directly responsible for the death of Grom Hellscream, Garrosh Hellscream's more likable and honorable father. I'm not really all that sure how I feel about the portrayal of Gul'dan. Everything I've heard about him and seen of him in lore characterizes him as more of a plotting, scheming, spineless coward and weakling than the glowy-eyed, green-eyed uber-orc badass that he's ultimately portrayed as. Garona, I loved how she was portrayed. A shunned half-breed, absolutely innocent to human civilization, but very smart, very cunning, and brutally honest as well. She was so loyal at heart, and it's an interesting counterpoint to the fact that she's best known as King Lane's assassin. I thought Lady Teria was beautiful and engaging. She was very compassionate, but she had a quiet strength to her. Khadgar, inquisitive, thoughtful, but so god-awfully awkward. It was kind of a good look for him at that age, I suppose. I will say it didn't take very long for the Black Morass, the site of Azeroth's Dark Portal, to look more like the Blasted Lands than a swamp. Now, you never actually see Medivh's part in the opening of the gate, and if not for Khadgar's detective work, the audience really wouldn't know about it at all, and it's kind of really flashed past up until you get to the final scenes with the confrontation between Lothar, Khadgar, and Medivh. But you have to kind of wonder if this points towards a sympathy towards the orcs rather than possession by Sargeras, which is portrayed later in the movie through Medivh's fell corruption. Blackrock Mountain. It's a very good setting for the meeting between King Lane and Durotan. The site figures heavily into Azeroth's lore. It's the place where Orgrim Doomhammer kills Lothar, and Turalyon rallies the Alliance to defeat the Horde. I was actually surprised to see Orgrim Doomhammer portrayed as Durotan's second-in-command, considering he was actually Blackhand's second in the lore. Although Orgrim and Durotan were pretty friendly. Lothar, there's an interesting tension between him and Garona, kind of a budding romance. And Medivh kind of sums it up, saying that he'd make a good mate for an orc. There's also some interesting interplay between Medivh and Garona. There's Medivh's story that he traveled far and wide meeting a strong and noble people. Of course, he doesn't come right out and say it's the orcs, but come on, who else is it going to be? Now, the female that he met, we're left to wonder, is it Garona's mother? Is he Garona's father? In the lore, it says that he's her lover and the father of their son Medan. But is this different in the movie? I mean, Blizzard's always kind of smirked at the idea of Medan in the first place, so we kind of have to wonder. Medivh gives Garona a magical flower before teleporting her away. Now, it's kind of odd that he showed such an affection to a half-orc he'd never met before then. So, taking this to the logical conclusion, you kind of have to wonder, did Medivh somehow also tutor or mentor Gul'dan? Kind of an interesting side thought there. Dalaran. Here's another can of worms. In the movie, it's up in the clouds. During Warcraft 3, It's on the ground, waiting to be leveled by Archimonde. Now, I'll grant, there could be an explanation for this. We haven't seen the whole story up until that point, so we don't know what goes on. But it's also launched up into the clouds again and rebuilt by the Chiron Tor to serve as a mobile base for pursuing the Lich King. The architecture is incredible. It is just simply outstanding. But you kind of have to wonder, how many times does this city go from being in the clouds to on the ground, in the clouds, back again? Over and over and over. I don't know. You just kind of want them to make up, the Chiron Tor to make up their mind whether it's one or the other. It hurts the brain. They also introduced the character Elodie, who in lore was actually the first Guardian. So why is this person locked up in a mage prison cube? It's very odd. And also you have the statement that from light comes darkness and from darkness comes light, which is reminiscent of what the prophet Velen tells Irel before sacrificing himself. And let's see, there's a historic fight that happens between Lothar and Khadgar against Medivh. And this is straight out of the lore. And it does wind up with Medivh dead. Medivh at this point is completely overcome by fel energy. And you can see, if you watch the movie, I wasn't able to find a good still shot of it, but just the demonic corruption that takes place in Medivh. Also, you've got Durotan standing up to Gul'dan. I'm not entirely sure that a Mat Garah between the two of them is entirely what happened, but it did make for good story during the film. There is a huge CGI battle at the Blasted Lands, and it's kind of consistent with the history of the place. There's lots of battles that happen in that area, and the destruction of Karazhan, along with Medivh's death, just made the story, in my opinion. The assassination of King Lane during the middle of a battle, not the way I'd heard of it happening. I understood that he was in Stormwind Castle at the time, planning to withstand the siege of that city. I could be wrong. I don't really agree with this plot change-up absolving Garona of his death. I don't think it should be played off as a simple misunderstanding. Garona at the time was supposed to have been magically enslaved by Gul'dan when she killed King Lane. The Mat Garah between Lothar and Blackhand, again, dramatic license. In lore, Orgrim Doomhammer kills Blackhand and goes on to kill Lothar. Now, one thing I did notice is that there's a very odd similarity between the movie sword, the Lion's Fang, and Ashkandi, the great sword of the Brotherhood. And I kind of have to wonder if that's how Ashkandi looked before Victor Nefarious, also known as the Dragon Nefarian, got a hold of it. The final scene, Goel, or Thrall, found by one of Adelaus Blackmore's troops. Now, hopefully this sets us up for a sequel. I personally enjoyed the movie. I think it's an excellent springboard into World of Warcraft for those of you who've no prior exposure to the game. And I want to know what you think. Please leave me some comments below. If you enjoyed this, click that like button. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. Feel free to share this if you've got friends who are undecided about the movie. And as always, I'm Dart. Good luck, and have fun in all your games.